The movie showcases a young Yohu in what seems to be the remnant of his destroyed village. He called for his father, but no one answered, and just at that moment, he got attacked by a monster, but the bat god quickly came to his aid, protecting him. Yohu woke as his father realized he had a vision, but Yohu stated it was more like a nightmare. His father is Chief Totokatsin, the chief of their village, as he called his son over so they can say a prayer to their gods. Yohu wondered why the gods allowed his mother to die if it was so powerful, as his father tried talking to him, but he had already left. The village was situated at the Gulf of Mexico, as Yohu got out and spotted some villagers playing music and dancing, and he joined them. His father spotted him and called onto him, so he quickly ran to the training ground. They were being taught how to fight and defend themselves from external invaders, as Yohu's father tried correcting his son's posture. He was still on it when Yohu spotted multitudes of ships from afar and was in shock because they had white skin and shining armor looking like gods. The chief was skeptical of them as they landed, and the leader introduced himself as Captain Herman Cortés, as he came under the orders of the Roman Emperor Charles I to explore new lands. They were low on supplies, so the chief decided to treat them as honored guests. The second-in-command informed the captain that Diego sent them to get gold, but the captain had wilder plans. He showed the villagers their drawings and inventions, which amazed Yohu. He also shows the villagers how powerful they were by demonstrating a gunshot, intimidating the chief. That night, Yohu spoke to his father about them, how their armor shines like gods, but the chief made it clear that they were not gods and might be devious, so he tells his son to find Akatsin if anything bad happens. Yohu slept, and on waking up didn't see his father, so he got out and spotted the villagers as they were present to wave their guests goodbye. Captain Cortés thanks Chief Totokatsin for his hospitality and asks the chief to do him a favor by telling him the location of Tenochtitlan. The chief stated that his request was impossible to grant, as there are strict rules preventing them from doing so. Captain Cortés then switched, telling the chief to allow Yohu to be his herald. Yohu wanted to, as his father took him aside and handed him his mother's statue, and also reminded him to go to Akatsin if anything goes wrong. Meanwhile, the second-in-command of the captain removes his hood, revealing his blonde hair. The villagers, thinking he was a god, clustered around him, which makes him uncomfortable, so he picks his gun and shoots one of them. The chief was disgusted by this, as he stated that Captain Cortés would never see Tenochtitlan as long as he breathes. This angers the captains as he slits the chief's throat. Yohu was shocked to see this, as his father died right in his arms. The captain grabbed Yohu to take him to the location, but Yohu bit his hands and ran off. Yohu was shot on the way, as he soon became weak and fell into a river. There, he entered into a trance and had visions of gods, including the monster god that chased him earlier. On waking up, he found himself patched up as he got out of the shelter and spoke to the godlike woman, asking her if he was in Mictlan, the afterlife, and she said no. She spoke in parables, as Yohu couldn't understand her and saw her as a witch, as he spotted a hidden passage and went through it. There he saw the statue of the bat god and questioned it as to why it didn't protect his parents. At that moment, bats flew around him, and he found himself back in the woods. He looked around and realized he was in Tenochtitlan as he got into the City of Gold to find Akatsin. Akatsin found him weak at his doorstep and took him in. The next day, Akatsin took Yohu to see King Moctezuma. Yohu explained to the king how the Tuile's army, led by Cortés, attacked their village unprovoked and slew everyone, including their chief. The king, not knowing if the Tuiles were gods or men, asked his high priests. His high priests, harboring devious intentions, stated that they were indeed gods, which made Yohu surprised as he tried to explain how they were monsters. The king kept an open mind as he awaited the day of the Tuile's arrival. Yohu, not wanting the disaster to happen again, asked Akatsin to train him to become the finest warrior so he could defend the city. Akatsin agreed. Meanwhile, the high priest said a prayer to Huitzilopochtli and spoke about how Yohu might hinder the prophecy. Meanwhile, Yohu had begun his training sessions as he trained harder than anyone so he could become the best, while the high priest, on the other hand, offered human sacrifices to Huitzilopochtli. Meanwhile, Captain Cortés went around invading other villages in search of Tenochtitlan. He was always welcomed at first, but slayed everyone after he couldn't get the location of Tenochtitlan. After years of training, Yohu had become the finest warrior and became the leader of the king warriors, as he informed the king of how his men are ready to face the Tuiles if they attack. The Tuiles, after a long conquest, finally arrived at Tenochtitlan. The king and the others were prepared as the high priest entered a trance as the god. Huitzilopochtli spoke to him, telling him to convince the king to let the Tuiles in. Captain Cortés and his army arrived as they introduced themselves. The warriors waited for Yohu's command as he ordered that they be let in. They were welcomed as the king met with Captain Cortés, paying his respect, as they were regarded as gods. King Moctezuma granted them hospitality, but Yohu didn't trust them. Yohu spoke with Akatsin as he wasn't okay with the king's decision to grant the Tuiles hospitality, so he decided to spy on them to find out what they might be up to. He spotted them harassing one of the villagers and were about to slay him when he suddenly came to his rescue and began fighting Cortés' soldiers. Cortés was more skilled than him and defeated him in combat. and he was almost slain when suddenly a woman came to his rescue scratching out Cortés' face. She was disguised as the jaguar god. She and Yohu took on the soldiers till they retreated. Yohu thanked her, but they had a slight disagreement, so she left. Meanwhile, Captain Cortés' face was disfigured after the attack, which angered him, so he ordered that their ship should be burned, as there was no going back. It was either they take over the land, or die trying. Yohu, wanting to know more about the Catwoman, followed her, and saw how she stole to help her people in need. She realized he was following her, so she ambushed him. He apologized for how things went the other time, and stated how he needed her help. Together they broke into Cortés' encampment as they took out some of his soldiers and stole weapons, equipment, and drawings describing different forms of inventions. In the morning, he took Akitsin to Tsanarkan temple. Akitsin was amazed because he thought the lost temple was a myth, as Yohu stated that he found it by accident when he was hurt. But Akitsin believed that it was the bat god who led him to it, as he had a mission to accomplish. They got to work as the place became Yohu's new lair. At night, Yohu spotted the goddess who helped him earlier and apologized to her, as he couldn't recognize her, and asked for her help in defeating Cortés. She spoke in parables again, stating how they needed to be a clash of empire. Yohu woke up realizing it was a dream, as Akitsin stated that it's one of the ways the gods communicate with its people. Meanwhile, the king no longer trusts the high priest, as he ordered he should be exiled. Yohu, disguised as a bat, continued attacking Cortés' soldiers, stealing more supplies. Cortés was enraged by the troubles the Batman was causing, but it only got worse as an official informed Cortés that Diego, governor of Cuba, and an official of the Roman Emperor, Charles I, has ordered his return. Cortés, thirsty for revenge and conquest, wasn't ready to obey such an order. At the time, Yohu had finished making most of the gadgets he needed, like the batarang and his mask, as he represented the Bat God. He had become Batman. Captain Cortés and his second-in-command were exploring new places that night when they got ambushed by Batman. He was able to fashion some explosives which he used in ambushing Cortés. He was powerful enough this time to handle Cortés, but the other soldiers pointed a gun at him, but before they could shoot, he had already disappeared. In the morning, Cortés laid his complaint to the king about how he was attacked and needed compensation. So Yohu stepped forward, saying he will accompany him from now on. The king agreed, as it was a wise idea. Meanwhile, Yoka, no longer the high priest, began heading home as the god. Huitzilopochtli was still giving him instructions on the way. Meanwhile, Yohu had already begun to accompany Cortés and his soldiers, and also spy on them. Yoka got home as his mother and the rest of his family welcomed him. At dinner, Huitzilopochtli's voice had become so loud that Yoka wasn't himself any longer, as he informed his family that they needed to be sacrificed. His family, still thinking he was still the high priest, agreed to yield to the god's will. Meanwhile, Captain Cortés was hatching a grand plan to take over. Yohu came at that moment as the captain informed him that he has a huge surprise for his people, which will be unveiled tonight, so he has to leave now. This makes Yohu suspicious. Meanwhile, Yoka was still speaking with Huitzilopochtli when the god revealed his true form. The god wasn't Huitzilopochtli but Tezcatlipoca, the great deceiver. The high priest was deceived into sacrificing his family. Well, the joke was on him now, as he rubbed his face with his mother's ashes and uses his blood to make a smile. He was mentally ill now, as Yoka became the Aztec Joker. Meanwhile, Captain Cortés and his men were transporting some goods when Batman ambushed them. It turns out they laid a net trap for him, but he was able to get out of it, and continued an all-out assault on the soldiers. Meanwhile, at the temple, it was Toxcarl's festival, as humans were brought forward to be sacrificed. Well, it turns out Cortés' men were already there to kickstart their plan. Batman fought Captain Cortés, as Cortés revealed he knew that he was Yohu, and while he is distracted, his men are already in the temple to unleash havoc. Yohu, looking at Cortés' chest plate, saw the symbol of the bull that attacked him in his dream. Immediately, he took out one of Cortés' soldiers and stole his horse as he began heading to the temple. At the temple, Cortés' men have slain everyone, desecrated the temple, and captured King Moctezuma, as they planned to use him to control the people. Yohu arrived at that moment, and seeing all that happened, screamed as they noticed his presence and fired at him, so he had to escape. Yohu spoke with Akitsin, as he now understood what the goddess was trying to tell him and what he must do. The people gathered as Captain Cortés addresses them, stating he had captured their king, so they must bring whatever gold items they have, or the king is going to die. Yohu was present as he signals Akitsin, and he brought forward a gold necklace. The people were angry and wanted to charge, but King Moctezuma warriors stopped them, fearing their king would be harmed. Yohu and Akitsin left as the cat girl noticed and followed them to the temple. They were surprised to see her, as Yohu asks if she was here to help, as she stated she just wants to bid farewell, as she left before he even realized. Meanwhile, Batman broke into where King Moctezuma was held, taking out the soldiers. Moctezuma saw him as Tsanarkan, the Bat God. Moctezuma stated he was deceived, thinking the Tuels were gods, but Batman made it clear that Captain Cortés and his soldiers were not gods as he left. The people had begun presenting their gold items, but a little girl presented precious feathers, which made Cortés angry, because he only wanted gold, so he slayed the girl and her mom. King Moctezuma came out at that moment and addressed his people, but they didn't want to listen and threw rocks at him. He tried pleading with them when suddenly he was stabbed. It turns out Yoka stabbed him as Yoka was being controlled by Tezcatlipoca now, and they loved the chaos his death will cause. He was dead now as Cortés realized the people would no longer do his bidding soon. He decides to use force as his army began firing at them, laying waste to the people. Batman arrived at that moment and called for his warrior, Ocelote, telling him to sound his horn, and he did just that. The warriors were gathered and were all aware of the Bat God presence as it motivates them to fight back. Yohu fought with Cortés as they began firing cannonballs at the villagers, but Catwoman came right on time. It turns out she had a change of heart and wanted to help. During the fight, Cortés revealed his grand plan. Yohu was shocked as Cortés stabbed him, and he was on the ground as he spotted a large ship sailing for war. It turns out the ship held a giant cannon as Yohu distracted Cortés and fled. Cortés signals his army, and they began firing. Akitson and Catwoman met with Yohu as he was injured, but it turns out he had a plan of his own. He had invented a flying device and was about to use it. He leaps and began gliding. The people saw this and were happy that the Bat God was with them. From the air, Batman uses his explosives to take out the giant ships and was back fighting Cortés. Meanwhile, as Cortés' men were about taking the golds away, when suddenly the goddess appeared and began to sink everything, both the golds and Captain Cortés' soldiers. They were defeated now as Captain Cortés drops his weapon and ran off. Captain Cortés was in the woods sobbing about how he failed when suddenly Yoka paid him a visit, telling him of a way to get back the throne. The people gathered as Batman succumbed to his injuries as he saw the ghost of his parents before he finally breathed his last. His body was taken to the temple of the Bat God and placed there as Akitson and Catwoman were the last to pay their final respects before the temple was sealed off. Akitson was worried as he said that evil hasn't ended. Meanwhile, at the temple, Sanarkan eyes suddenly glowed, and just at that moment, Batman was back to life. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you love animations and movies, please subscribe to It's Mythical for more mind-blowing recaps like this. Goodbye.